Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Coffee with Compassion. Hello, everybody. It's Jason Green here. I'm one of the pastors here at Compassion Church in Radford. Thank you so much for joining me. If you like today's devotional, please remember to like and share it on social media. You know, Pastor Howe here at Compassion's been going through the series Broken Gospel, and he finished it up this past weekend. You know, what we've learned is that many times the gospel is not effective, and it's not because the gospel itself has become ineffective, but our approach and our manipulation of it makes it of in effect in our life. So, you know, when I was in Sunday school as a kid, one of the first things I learned was the term gospel meant good news. So we have to ask, what is the good news? I would continue to contend to you today that the good news is a person and not simply what God does for us. It's not actions he's taken, but the good news is that he is who he says he is and that he has come to be a part of our lives. You know, many times when we say, hey, tell me about the good news, or, you know, if somebody asked us, tell us what the good news is, we'd say, well, I'm forgiven. Or we'd say, I no longer have sin in my life. Sin no longer has power over me. Or we'd say, I've received God's healing. I've received his grace. Or we'd say something about being free. You know, I can walk in freedom. And in reality, that's what God does, and those are actions. But what is the good news itself? You know, in Ephesians 2:8, it says, for by grace you have been saved, not of works of your own, that any man should boast. You know, when God approaches his relationship with us, he takes us for who we are. He loves us because we are his children. He doesn't love us because of what we can do for him. But we do the exact opposite with him. Many times we approach God, and when we say we love him, when we talk about what we love about him, it's what he does for us. But in reality, we should approach him the same way. We should love him, not because of what he does for us, but because of who he is. We should love him because he is the sovereign God, because he is God over everything, because he has everything in the palm of his hand, because he's our Father, because he's the creator. We should love him for who he is and not come to with a list of, well, God did this, God did that, God does this. Now I want to share with you from Scripture in Luke 4:18. It says, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, for he has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim that the captives will be released, that the blind will see, and the oppressed will be set free. This is Jesus Christ after God has come down and said, this is my Son in whom I'm pleased. After he's proven himself by going to the wilderness and being tempted, he comes back and reads this scripture in the temple and says, the good news has come. Now, while Jesus mentions the good works that he will do, one thing he does not do is says, you know, the good news is in 3.5 years, I'm going to die on a cross for you. Nope. He doesn't say the good news in 3.5 years, I'm going to raise from the dead, and it's going to consummate your forgiveness of sins, and it's going to, allow you to be in the presence of God. He doesn't say the good news is 3.5 years from now. He says this in verse 21, he says, the scripture you have just heard has been fulfilled this very day. Why would he say that? He hadn't died on the cross yet. We don't technically, you know, if you look at theology, technically at this point, the forgiveness of sins has not been made complete. How could he possibly say the good news has come if it's based on that? But it's not. It's based on the person of Christ. The reason he can say this scripture is fulfilled today because he can say, I have come. Remember what the Old Testament said. It said Emmanuel. The term Emmanuel means that God with us is with us. What Jesus is saying is God is with you now. God is here. God has heard your cry. God has come. That is the good news. That Jesus has come. That Jesus is here. That Jesus is going to take care of everything, not because we're worried about every little work or everything he can do, but because he is God, because he loves us, and his presence has now arrived. You know, so many times we have the anticipation of what God's calling us to or what God's going to do, and we say, will he succeed in his mission? We don't need to worry about that. When God has arrived, we know he will succeed. That's the awesome power of the good news, is that once he's here, however everything's going to be taken care of, it will be taken care of by Him. God bless you. Have an awesome day.